I was working with my friend to help me develop my channel and start this whole project, I wanted to think of ideas that would be helpful to people maybe in other ways than the typical stuff we see on the internet a lot, like learning scales and things like that. And I'm going to have plenty of videos on that because that's a huge part of what we do as musicians, is build our technique and understand the foundations of music and things like that. But I wanted to help people learn how to develop their careers and build a world and a life around music. And there's so many other things that go into that other than just being good at your instrument. So that's what this video is about. I want to talk about some of those things that will help you build a professional lifestyle and working environment that will help you build a professional reputation that succeeds, that gets you more gigs, that gets you more opportunities to present your music and create the world that you want to live in. So if you're new to the channel, please hit like and subscribe, hit the little bell so you can get the notifications for when I release new content, and let's jump right in. First things first, you have to put yourself out there. Gigs are not going to magically appear. The first gigs I got were because a friend of mine was going out and he was booking gigs. He was the one who was going to coffee shops and meeting people at his church and things like that, where he made connections, he talked to people, and he offered a group to come play. Now I got lucky and he called me because we were friends, but he was the one doing the legwork, and I was aware of that. Later on in life, as I got to New York, I knew I needed to be around people that had gigs or were booking gigs and things like that so I could get on them. So you have to go to the venues or the clubs and things like that where the music is happening. Maybe online is your way of putting yourself out there by releasing videos, creating content and things like that. There's many different ways to do it and everybody has their own way, whichever feels comfortable. But your phone's not gonna ring if you don't put yourself out there. This stuff isn't magic. There is a process, there is a method. And step one is making sure the world knows you exist. By the way, if you've been enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out, helps me build this channel. And I have a 6-part free masterclass about my favorite tips for taking your playing to an absolute pro level. I really hope you'll check it out. Another really important thing that you don't really learn in music school so much or is talked about as much is social skills. And a simple thing you can do to start really working in that area is learn to say thank you. I've been on a lot of gigs where people will take amazing solos and an audience member will be really excited about their playing and they'll come up to them and say, "Wow, you played so great. That was really amazing. I couldn't believe it. You guys really made our evening," or something like that. And so many musicians will either not say anything and kind of like cower, or they'll be like, "Nah, that wasn't great. I wasn't good at that." And really all they need to say is thank you. That person comes up to them, they just want to let them know how great that their playing made them feel. And all you have to do is say thank you in that moment. And two things happen. One is you connect with that person who's trying to say something nice to you. And the other thing that happens is you get to feel good about what you did. It's like a little reward. That's a little payoff moment. Someone came up to you and said thank you for all the hours you put into the practice room to get really great at this music, to learn these songs, to get to the gig and things like that. That's one of the payoff moments. So many musicians don't take that moment and take it in to feel good about themselves. And they almost put themselves down in that moment and they turn away from that nice moment of feeling good. And it's really not productive to themselves, to the audience member, and to their career. Learning to say thank you is a really powerful way to build connections, build self-esteem, and make the world a little easier to navigate. Building a successful music career is all about connections. So this person is coming up to you and they're starting a connection. That's a moment for you to make a new friend. So many gigs that I've gotten in New York have only come from my friends or people I've known or other connections or people that have remembered me. I've never gotten a job in New York from applying, not once. Every single time I applied for something, I didn't get it. Every job I got was because a friend recommended me. I was talking to a guitarist who just landed a job teaching at Berkeley, and I asked them how they got that job, and they said it was completely crazy. They played in their mother's living room when they were 15, and the person who recommended them for the job remembered that they played well and thought that this person was a really nice individual. And that's how they landed the job. It's crazy. It wasn't because their resume was the most spectacular or everybody knew their name. It was because this one moment in the past where someone saw that person play and remembered that they were cool and recommended them for the job. And that's how it happened. Connections are extremely important, and developing them is going to open so many doors that you can't see. And a quick way to start building good connections is to say thank you when an audience member comes up and gives you a compliment or something like that. The next thing here is another communication type thing. We're going to talk a little bit about band etiquette. It's your turn to solo. They throw you a solo, you take a really amazing solo, but then you don't communicate that you're ending and you just kind of put your horn down, and you don't look at anyone, and you just expect the music to sort itself out. You're not doing your entire job there. You need to cue at the end of your solo. You need to look around to the vocalists or to the drummer or to the other horn player or to the bass player or whoever's going to solo next so that the song continues on. This idea of communication, whether it's with interacting with other people from the audience or members of your band, it's a very important thing. It's a really important aspect about music. To make good music, you need to communicate well. And then when you're soloing, you want to take a good solo, but you don't want to solo for days. You want to solo the appropriate amount of time to make the audience enjoy what's happening and to make the song sound good, and then you want to cue your way out of it so that the song continues on and there's a nice continuity. Unfortunately, the audience isn't going to pay attention to a burning solo for 20 minutes. I mean, some people might, but most people are going to kind of drop off, and it has nothing to do with your playing, and I think it has a lot to do mostly with the way people listen to music. They're mostly listening to the words, and melody might be something that they're grasping. The other thing they might be grabbing is the groove, but they're not going to hear the bass lines or like the intricate guitar parts, or the saxophone solos. They're mostly listening to the words. Tip number 4, one of the quickest things that lets a pro know that someone has just graduated from college and has not been on the scene and doesn't have a ton of experience is the way they dress. People talk about this in every field, but dressing well really is important in music. We do something where people come to a show and they look at us, and there's tons of different situations where there's different clothing requirements for the gig. So it's really important for you to learn how to dress well. And dressing well doesn't mean you have to spend tons of money. You need to find clothes that look good, fit well, and are appropriate for the gig you're on. If you're doing a P-Funk show, it might not be cool to show up in a suit unless it's a super huge suit like maybe David Byrne in the 80s. If you're doing a free jazz gig, it might not be right to show up in a suit, depending on the band. I heard the band Mostly Other People Do the Killing play completely free concert, all wearing very nice suits. If you do a wedding, it's probably not cool to show up in like a yellow headband, a wig, and sunglasses and things like that. It's probably not the vibe. And this might be a bummer to hear. Maybe you got into music because you didn't want to do these things, like dress a certain way. You want to dress how you like to dress. You didn't want to put on a suit. If you're here to build a career, you need to dress the part. There's going to be days where you can dress crazy and wear whatever you want, and other days you're going to wear a suit. And for me, that's kind of the fun part of all this, is like some days I get to be kind of like the suit person, and some days I get to cut loose and play the funk show, and I get to dress up like a rock star and live that life for a night. And personally, I find these different looks and finding the right clothing empowering. When I'm wearing a nice suit, I feel really good. When I'm on a funk show and I am drawing the audience in because I look like a rock star, it makes me feel good, which makes me play better, which makes me emit better energy to the audience, and they have a better time, leading to maybe more gigs and better connections. So all kinds of reasons why dressing for the gig of the moment in the correct way really pay off, beyond just your own personal comfort level. This is another really basic one, but it goes a long way to being a professional musician: being on time. I wish that we didn't have to arrive at certain places at a certain time. I wish we could float around and just do whatever we wanted all the time. But that's not how human beings work. You're supposed to be at a gig, you're supposed to be at a flight, you're supposed to be at a bus or a ride or, sound check at certain times so that the show can happen. You might miss the bus and now the band makes it to the next town and you don't, and the band leader is out their sax player. The audience is out their sax player, and the band leader has to find a new sax player in some town. And now that person doesn't know the music and the show isn't going to be as good. And it's all these reasons that just pile up because you didn't make the bus on time. I know some amazing musicians that don't get as many calls because they don't show up on time. And other musicians know that. That's just how human beings work. And especially New Yorkers, they don't want their time wasted. So there's some really simple things that you can do to make sure your career goes well. And one of them is showing up on time. As a freelance musician in New York City, one of the things you have to do is get to the gig. Now, a lot of gigs will happen on the metro system in the city, so you could take the subway. But then a lot of gigs will happen outside of the city, and you need to get a ride. And ride etiquette is a thing. It's also another one of these moments where we talk about connections and building connections. You can make great connections through trying to get rides. You can also burn a lot of bridges by treating people with cars in a way that they don't want to call you for things. And remember, it's about who you know, and musicians talk. So it's totally cool in New York not to have a car. That's not a big deal. And I didn't have a car for years, and it was really great. And I would get rides, and I noticed that there was a way to get rides from people that didn't rub them the wrong way. I wouldn't just text them right away and be like, hey man, can I get a ride with you? I would usually find like the group email thread, and I would text that and put a feeler out. Hey, has anybody got space in their car? I'll pitch in for gas and tolls. That's really important. You want to make sure you help with the expenses for getting to the gig. And then sometimes people would come back to me and say, yeah, I have space. Other times, no one would respond. And that's when I would take the next step of texting someone directly. Now, usually I would be semi-friends with these people already because we'd already done some gigs together, and it wouldn't be so much of a big deal. But the process of starting with the email chain, throwing out that you're going to throw in for gas and tolls before you text people directly really builds a connection, because it doesn't just hit someone out of the blue about how they're going to have to modify their day to help you get to the gig. And on the flip side, someone with a car, giving rides is a great way to make more connections for yourself as well. Maybe there's a whole bunch of people on the gig that you don't know. Someone hits the email thread and they need a ride, and you could offer a ride because you don't know that person. You want to get to hang out with them and meet them and see if they're cool. Maybe you'd like to work together. The ride thing is definitely a game, and it's a great way to make connections and build your career by getting some time with some of your fellow colleagues. Tip number 8 is more connection stuff. So much of what we do and so many gigs we get is because of who we know. So a big thing to do is say goodbye to everybody in the band at the end of the night. Even if you don't know them, just be like, hey, it's nice working with you, and say goodbye to them. It's going to help them remember who you are. It's also going to start communication with them. If you leave the gig at the end of the night and you don't say bye to people, they're going to think you don't like them. That's just how people operate. And you don't want your colleagues thinking you don't like them or you're not interested in them. You might be indifferent, but unfortunately, if you leave and don't say bye, that's the way people feel. They just feel like you're not into them. And now they're not going to call you for a gig because they're going to go, I don't know, that person didn't seem to be interested in my world too much. Maybe I'll find a different sax player. You don't need that. You want the calls. So say goodbye to people at the end of the night. And then over time, what happens is you'll be on multiple gigs with these people and you become friends. And that's a great way to just start building that connection. You say goodbye at the end of the night. Be like, oh man, you sounded really great tonight. I really loved your solo on Sign Seal Delivered or something. And all of a sudden you're starting a conversation. You're building a connection. You're finding commonality. And this is how your world grows. Next time that person is on a gig and they say they need a sax player, they'll be like, oh, I remember my friend Paul from the gig the other night. We were chatting afterwards about how we both were really into this one solo that Elvin Jones took from this recording. You got that gig because you were friends with this person, because you said goodbye to them at the end of the night. It's a simple thing that'll take your career to new places. And a lot of times these simple things add up. People don't do them and they're like, man, I don't know why I'm not working as much. Learning to listen. It's really important for your music and for your communicating with others. Musically, you need to learn to listen because, say, for example, if you're in a band with a vocalist, where are they going? Are they setting up the bridge? Are they setting up a pre-chorus? Are they on a verse? Have we already sung this verse before? Is the verse about to end? Can you feel the change in where the music is going because you're listening to what's happening? When musicians don't listen, dead space happens. We just get this awkward moment where a groove is just going for no particular reason and nothing is really happening. The audience just kind of keeps going, but they also don't know what's happening, and it's kind of like a stale moment in the show. If you're playing free jazz or straight ahead jazz or improvised music, if you're not listening, you're not doing most of your job. So much of what you play on an improvised gig comes from what other people are playing and what they're signaling for you to do. It's so simple to play a great solo when the drummer might play a cool rhythmic fill and you can grab that and just build and build and build and build from there. Then more plainly, when just talking to another human being, listening is super important. Listen to the words that are coming out of their mouth. If you just played a solo and they're talking about, man, my microphone was messing up, and you're just kind of in your own headspace, not really being in the moment with the conversation, they're not gonna talk to you anymore, want to call you for gigs because you're just so focused on yourself. Or maybe you want to talk about something else and it has nothing to do with what's going on at the moment. Active listening when communicating with other human beings is super important. It's all about being very much in the moment. It's going to make your music better. It's going to make interacting with other human beings better. Let's talk about having fun on stage. Now, for a long time, I would not have fun on stage. Something would be off, like maybe a guest would say something, or like we missed the bridge or I was unhappy with some little thing that made me mad, and then I wouldn't be having any more fun on stage. And I was missing out on so much of what is really positive about my job. We chose music to have fun. We wanted to go do our jobs and enjoy the moment versus to do something we didn't like all day. So as soon as I started to have fun again, I reconnected with my favorite thing about my job, which was the music. All of a sudden I noticed the groove, and man, the groove would make me so happy. I would just want to dance the whole night. I would notice the harmony and the interesting chords or the texture of the chords would make me really happy, and I'd be really into it. The way the bass and the drums would lock up, or maybe how in tune a vocalist would sing. All these things that make me happy about music, I got connected with, and I had so much more fun. And with that fun comes so much more reward. I have a much better time doing my job. I do a better job because I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And with that, people that come to your shows want to see you having a good time, or they want to see you be connected to what's going on. If you are just mad while you're on stage, depending on the show, people are not going to really be into it. For the vast majority of people that go to see live music, it's an escape from their life. They're not looking to go see someone who's unhappy because they're trying to come out and have a good time. They want to see people that are enjoying themselves. They want to take part in that. They want to enjoy with you. They want to enjoy that music with you. They want to understand why that groove feels so good. They want to see you having fun so they can connect and they can feel good as well. And that's some of the coolest parts about music, in my opinion, is how we can help other people share in our joy for this thing. When you're having fun and you're truly connected in the moment, your career, your playing, and your life is going to be a lot more fun and successful. People are going to call you for gigs because they know you love being there. People are going to want to see you play because they're going to feel some sort of connection with you and the music because they see you having a good time. And I'm not talking about just going up and like putting on a show for the sake of making everyone feel something or be fake or anything like that. Like, truly be happy for the things that make you happy when you hear them. I love the groove of music. It makes me want to dance, so I dance. My last pro tip here is to be part of things that you want to be a part of. This has a lot to do with the whole happiness being in the moment thing. Say you're putting yourself out there, you're going to shows, you're going to gigs, you're meeting people, but you're at things that you're supposed to be at, or you're at things that you don't know if you're really into. You're gonna start to get maybe a gig or two here or there with them, and you're gonna be on stage and you're gonna be forcing yourself to do these things that you don't really like. You're not gonna be having a good time. That's gonna lead to you not wanting to practice. That's gonna lead to you not getting called for more gigs. That's gonna lead to you not wanting to play music. It's really important to be around things that you're really interested in and trust that gigs will develop over time. Even if you meet just one person on a gig that really shares some common interests with you about a musical style, that is a huge connection because now you have an ally with someone that loves the same things you do. That's going to make you want to practice. They're going to send you cool music to listen to, or they're going to recommend a cool show to go to, and you're going to go see it. It's going to inspire you to practice, to go out more, to try and get more gigs, to create more music, to talk to more people. It's really important to remember that music is fun and to do things in music that are fun, because so much of what we do in this career doesn't give us a monetary reward. It's a ton of work. So there needs to be something that keeps you going, and that is the fun. And then the money comes and the gigs come. When you're having fun, you're building a world that you believe in, you're working hard at it, the successes come. So go to things that you like, do things that you like. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please click like and subscribe and check out some more of my content. I hope it helps you out. If you have any recommendations about how to be a more successful musician, put them in the comments. I'm all ears. I really like talking about this stuff. I really want to help build a community and help others be more successful in music and the things they love. And I want more tips on how to be more successful on the things I love to do. I'll check you all next time, and I'll see you later.